All right,
Perfect.
here we go.
All right.
So Timmons, how are you doing today, man?
Not bad, not bad. Can't complain. Regular day at work, got home.
No doubt, no doubt. Thank you for coming by to the Lens of Yashu.
Of
So for
course. Thank
the
you so much for having me.
no problem. So for the people who are like watching right now, so Timmons
Mhm,
is a rapper, musician, and artist based out of Toronto.
mhm,
Who has released a variety of songs such as Asphyxiation, Lane Low, I think remember to I think something like that.
mhm,
Also running back to you with Markus Aurelius and Tone Jones. Where are you? Problem and same as well too. And I liked songs like Laying Low and Running Back to You, which are
mhm.
like sort of like my favorite songs. Just based on the production value and everything else too. And
Yeah.
one person one person who I also covered, Marcus Aurelius, who I had on the interview, he recommended you to me like earlier on, like years ago. So I just
Mhm.
caught by with the work and it's been great so far.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
No doubt, no doubt. But before we get to the whole like music aspect part of it, like
Mhm,
the audience would like to know more about you, like in a sense from before the Timmons days and all that, like
mhm.
pre Timmons, like from the start to your career. So I just want
Right.
to start off in the thing with where did you grow up in Toronto, and what was like the environment like for you growing up as well as like your childhood? Would you say that it is like a good experience growing up, or would it be like quite different?
Yeah, no, overall it was an okay experience. I grew up kind of in the I guess I'd say the west end of Toronto. My mother kind of raised me in a community housing area near say like Lansdowne and Davenport area. If anybody is from Toronto and they know the Symington area, I grew up around there. And then around the age of 10, we moved out to East York, and that's where I spent most of my time. And I currently live in Scarborough as of the last 5 years. But yeah, it wasn't I wouldn't say like it was a particularly like tough childhood or anything like that. It was just regular single mom story. Doing the best she could and turned out okay, I think.
No doubt, no doubt. So like I actually went to school like nearby, like in the West End in Toronto. So I
Mhm.
went to like a school like near Harbin Ossington. So like just
Right.
like with those like areas too, like it kind of like conjunctions like in between each other because
Yeah.
I knew people who were like around that area, like Lansdowne and DuPont and like that Lansdowne strip that
Mhm.
went to like my old high school and all that. So it's kind of interesting, finding out people who lived in like different areas throughout their lives too, and just knowing like those different cultures, those different like assets. Like I like live in the core of the city, like downtown.
Okay.
So, just like finding out people who live in like different areas is like very interesting too. And I don't know like what ethnicity like you identify as. Like I don't know, would you explain your ethnicity as well?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as ethnicity would go, I would just consider myself, black, I guess. My parents are my mom is from Trinidad originally, and my dad is Jamaican.
True, true. Yeah, because it's actually pretty interesting. It's interesting too, Toronto, like it just kind of has like an interesting vibe with people who have like different backgrounds too, and even like with Caribbean culture,
Mhm.
Jamaican, Trini, Barbadian, um, Vincy culture as well. Like it has like
Yeah,
impacted Toronto as well, which like it could even say itself for like music wise too. So just getting
yeah,
into
of
the like
course.
this, yeah, yeah. Just getting into like this other question too. Within those areas that you grew up in Toronto, like in Scarborough, East York,
Mhm.
the West End, sorry. Would you say that there was like ever any inspiration there that made you want to pursue more in the music scene, like in those areas?
Um, so for me personally, I wouldn't say that my inspiration for music came specifically from where I was living. Because I guess if there was anybody, I guess, kind of making music in those areas, I wasn't really familiar with them. So it's not so much of an area thing or the people I was around in those areas at the time. But yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And just getting into like the music aspect now, like since we've
Mhm.
already tackled more on the Toronto-based stuff,
Yeah.
so growing up, what was like your musical background and history like, and what inspired you to become like a rapper and musician in that sense?
So as far as my musical background goes, I grew up in church, so I was exposed to um I guess a lot of gospel music coming up initially. I also played the piano when I was a lot younger for a few years. I didn't get particularly far, maybe grade 2 or 3 piano. Um, and so I did that for a number of years. Looking back on it, I kind of wish that I had continued because I would love to just kind of like sit down on a piano and play now. But kind of I left it behind, and I hope that one point I'll hopefully go back to it. As far as the inspiration to start making music, so along with playing the piano, I kind of dabbled in making beats on an electric keyboard for a couple years. They weren't amazing. Also, wasn't the greatest piece of technology either. But it was fun to kind of get into that. And then as far as the rapping aspect goes, I initially started writing in I'd say high school, and it was initially more of a way to kind of just uh process anything that I was going through and any feelings. And initially started off as poetry and stuff like that. And I started putting it to music later in high school and maybe around the time I was say like 19. Um and yeah, it just kind of grew from there. I realized that I really enjoyed doing that. And it was cool to experiment and see if I could improve and get better, and taking inspiration from really wherever I could.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And like even like for certain artists like too nowadays too, like they had like various like genres and various artists that they were influenced
Yeah.
by. And even like with music production, like sometimes when you play like piano or sometimes
Mhm.
when you learn to make beats, you sometimes like mimic off on like certain artists too. So some people they'll try to like mimic off on like a type beat or even with what a certain producer makes. And like even like within the piano, they'll
Mhm.
learn like various stuff like Chopin, Mozart, who else? Beethoven,
Mhm.
Yo-Yo Matsu, and it's pretty interesting in that sense too. So in terms of your aspect, what artists or genres were you mainly like influenced by, like when you were like making music and even like not like making music at the same time, and like in the
Mhm.
future, who would you like to collaborate with someday?
So starting off with, I guess, where some of my early inspiration came from. One of my favorite artists of all time is Busta Rhymes. And when I started writing, and especially when I started uh I guess recording and making songs, a lot of the way that I would write was heavily influenced by a lot of his style. So it was a lot of fast delivery, a lot of like packing as many syllables as I could. Oh my goodness, the mic fell over. I'm just gonna move this out the way. Packing a lot of syllables into lines and a lot of wordplay. So if I would mimic anyone at all, that would have been the first person that I would have probably been mimicking. Um, and then I kind of evolved to uh I moved a little bit away from being heavily influenced by him. I still very much obviously enjoy him. Um, But as far as anything that I was into, like kind of my home base for music is generally like hip hop and R&B. I definitely enjoy more than that. I'll get into, dancehall, soca, a little bit of country here and there. During high school, I kind of explored into metal as well, which I actually do still listen to a little bit of to this day. So overall, like over time, I just take influence and inspiration from anything I listen to, and that will kind of have an effect on the output of what I'm putting out at the time.
Yeah, no doubt. And Buster Rhymes too, he's actually like a well-known pioneer in the sound of like technical rapping, like fast rapping in that sense too. Because like
Mhm.
when you have like those OGs too, you had like Buster Rhymes, you had Eminem, you had Twista, and who else? I mean Tech 9 too, like earlier back
Yeah.
then. And they did pave the way for like many acts like in the game, such as like Hobson, NF,
Mhm.
Token, Dax, this other rapper named Quadeca, who's also like a YouTube rapper, Joyner,
Okay.
and even like Joyner Lucas, like too in that sense too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like just to add on, do you feel like Buster Rhymes is like a legend in that sense too, and that people should pay more homage to him in that sense of creating that lane for a variety of these rappers as well?
Definitely. I think he deserves all the homage. I think I strongly believe that he would have, been highly influential in hip hop as a whole, and a lot of other artists that are coming up now, that have come up before. Um, and he's worked with such a variety of other artists as well to make amazing music. So I would definitely say like he definitely deserves a ton of props. As far as whether he's deserved that now or whether he deserves more, I still think he like deserves all those props. Because I think there's people still definitely look up to him as a source of inspiration, even like a kind of like a mentor figure at this point.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And it's interesting too because recently he went back and did a song with Mariah Carey. I think
Mhm.
this would be like part two of what they did like with their original classic, like
Yeah, yeah,
"Give It to
yeah.
Me" and two. So I don't know if you checked out like that recent song lately with him and Mariah. Like, and I don't know if you had like any like thoughts on that.
I thought it was cool to revisit that. So yeah, I had heard that he was putting out an album, and I listened to it. I'll say maybe about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. So I took that in. I gave it a couple spins. Um, but yeah, kind of revisiting an an older, very classic track at this point was, I think, really dope. Because it just puts new life into this classic piece.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I haven't like listened to the track yet, but I had like heard more about it. So hopefully, like when I have the time to listen to it, like hopefully it matches up to like the original track too. And
Mhm.
so just getting back into like what we have right now, what is like your creative process in making music, and what would a day for recording music be like for you in that sense?
So my process for making music has kind of changed over time. It initially started with me just writing, and then I would look for a beat that would kind of fit what I was working with. My current style now, I still do a little bit of that, but more often than not, I'm usually kind of finding a beat that that I'm kind of vibing with, um, and just see if anything comes to mind content wise, or even if it's just a couple bars here and there. See if I can build on that, and if I find something to some kind of build off of, or if it feels like it's pulling a story out of me that I want to tell, then I'll do that as well, and spend some time kind of fleshing out versus hooks. I'm not really great with hooks, at least in my personal opinion. I've always kind of struggled with that. Um, but yeah, it's more I let the beat kind of let me know if I'm going to be expanding upon that. Um, as far as what a regular recording day or session would look like, um, on average, uh, I usually like to I don't I'm usually not one of those people who will come into a session kind of empty-handed and create on the spot. I usually like to kind of take my time and build what I'm writing. So usually, if by the time I'm ready to record, I've already kind of fleshed something out. So I've already kind of put in a bit of practice, and by the time I'm ready to record, it's more just kind of seeing exactly where my voice needs to be. But I'm usually ready to go with the full product, and for the most part, obviously, like while I'm recording, I'll still kind of play and add little aspects here and there, depending on how it feels when I'm building at the time.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. It's also like interesting too because like usually I ask this with like a lot of other like artists like on my channel too. So sometimes
Mhm.
they'll tell me like sometimes they'll jam out like to certain songs, and then like when they find like the lyrics needed or the beat for it, like they have it, and then some people it could be just as easy as just like listening to a beat and then just like writing away too. And for other
Yeah.
people, like it could be like I would need like this process and like this aura to get into like a certain moment. So some people they would have to
Hmm.
like drink or smoke or do other things
Yeah.
to vibe out. And it's pretty like straightforward too. And like even like when we talk about like some of these songs too, like we could talk about like how like Laylo was made, or like asphyxiation, or even like running back to you in that sense too, and like just even like getting into that aspect. So even with those songs and like
Hmm.
same problem and like where are you, like what were these creative processes for these songs like, and what inspired you like to make them in that sense too, like were you like at a certain like point in your life that you had to like write out based out of emotion, or was it just like do I look into it within the center of another person's like perspective in that sense?
Sorry, just my phone's making noise. Let me just
Yeah, no
mute this
worries.
real
No
quick.
worries.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with I guess the group of songs. Same asphyxiation problem and lay low. They're all part of a project that I had put out at the end of 2020. That I had spent a good bit of the year kind of like getting in and out of. So all of uh that was me kind of taking the time to process a lot of things that had been on my mind and that I had been through in the last few years previous to that. Um, so um, so, so a lot of that project was, I guess, particularly personal. Because I guess in the previous years I had been through quite a bit, and I was also in school, and there wasn't a lot of time to focus on like I guess myself. So after I had graduated and kind of settled into kind of a different type of routine, I had a little bit more time to spend in my head. And then I ended up writing quite a bit from midway through 2019 and all the way through 2020. I was writing a ton. And I realized that those four tracks kind of hit a similar vein of I had entitled the project itself the chrysalis, and that's just basically like the idea of a cocoon like right before a butterflies, because I'm seeing myself as a bit of a work in progress. I'm still growing and transforming. I'm in the process of that. And so I was going through I guess a growth slash healing period. So a lot of things had to come out. Um, so for those tracks, it was a lot of me bringing is putting a magnifying glass on myself and the process of me kind of changing and growing as a person. So I tried to be as honest as I could with the writing. Um, and yeah, so that was from a more personal, emotional place that I felt I just kind of needed to express. Um, so, and then when it comes to songs like Where You Are and Running Back to You, those are songs that were initially built off just kind of like I was just trying to vibe out and have some fun with the music. And so those aren't exactly per, stories taken from like my real life. Those are more concepts. In general, even if I'm writing kind of more concept pieces, I'll still toss pieces of myself into them, because that's just kind of how that process works for me. It's a simpler, more natural way for me to write, and then it lets me kind of build a bit more of a conversational tone in the way that I'm writing and delivering these the verses and the stories and the ideas.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I definitely hear you on that. And like when I was like listening to a lot like these songs like in general, I noticed that there's like a deep like sentiment, like even like with the production, sometimes
Mhm.
the production can get like really dark at times too, and the emotions like on some of these tracks, were kind of like very closed and like hard hitting, like every like word, every stanza, like you actually like feel something when you listen to like a certain like bar, and then like when you hear like other
Mhm.
tracks like Running Back to You and Where You Are and all that. And it's kind of like it could be more fun, it could be more creative in that sense too. Like we could just like mellow out, like relax.
Mhm.
And it's even same with like the lyrics, the vocals, like the emotion of the vocals, and even like the tone of the production too, because sometimes uh be a certain beat or a certain style can determine like the certain emotion that you want to give through like on certain
Yeah.
tracks too. So yeah. And
Yeah. So for stuff like that, like so once again, the for the Chrysalis project with the same problem, asphyxiation and lay low, all the production of that was done by a friend of mine that goes by the title of Dally J. And so he produced all of those. Then we recorded and mixed all of those together and kind of worked on those. And as far as Running Back to You and Where You Are, those are beats that I found from outside. And yeah, they all kind of they all have very, very different moods. And so as you said, yeah, some of them are a lot darker. And my vibe as an artist tends to be kind of just kind of more mellow, and kind of sort of on the darker end, I guess. Um, but yeah, I think it's dope that you were able to listen to something and then and feel anything out of listening to what I put out. So that's I feel like I kind of did the job properly if you're feeling anything at all. So that's kind of cool as well.
yeah, no doubt. And like just to speak more on like Running Back to You,
Mhm.
so it had like Markus Aurelius and
Yeah,
Tone Jones as well. So with Marcus, as I said earlier, I did the interview with him like a while back, like years ago. I
yeah,
think it was like back in like 2019 too. So it was sort of like when I first started out, and then like when I got to hear more of his music too, a very like amazing like vocalist in that sense too, like
oh yeah,
hitting all these high notes and like hitting all these ranges like properly too. And I've seen him like live twice before, and he could put on
yeah,
like a show too. And one of like his one of his tracks like a while back too with Katasha J, it was like
yes,
a track with like a blue like cover art and all that, like a blue album cover art. It was
Yeah,
like probably like one of my favorite songs too from him too. But like just
yeah.
getting
I
back
think that
to
was. I
that
think it
too.
was called the. I think it was called the Vibe. Yeah,
Yeah, the vibe. Yeah, the vibe.
yeah,
Yeah. It's like kind of like one of my like favorite songs like last year, like just like
yeah.
heading home, like it was a dope vibe too. So just getting back to it, how did you manage to work with Markus Aurelius and like Tone Jones, and what was like the musical relationship or like even like personal like relationship like between you and the two of them?
Um, so Marcus is my cousin, actually. So we currently are living together. So we're together a lot. We vibe a lot musically. So and we've built a couple other songs where and enjoy the process of creating together. And yeah, he's an amazing vocalist. I love watching him perform, love him to death. He's an amazing dude. um Tone Jones, I don't have a personal relationship with. He's actually the producer on the track. So I had found one of his track. Well, I'd found a number of his tracks online, really. And he does amazing work as well. So if anyone's looking for beats, definitely look up Tone Jones. He's got a lot of amazing. He does a lot of amazing instrumental work. But one of the but the beat for Running Back to You. So he features on it, and the beat actually came with the hook. So the clearly the hook was the inspiration for, I guess, any of that content. um and then I ended up just kind of writing to it. And once again, it was a little, it wasn't so much a full story from my personal life. It's just kind of, the beat gave me a vibe, and I'm like, yo, I think I can create something for this. And I was creating while I was writing. It was during a writing session that I was having with Marcus. And he didn't do too much writing on it, but he definitely added an amazing vibe with a bunch of background vocals and playing with it in the in the background, and kind of giving me ideas on how to deliver some of the lines as well. So so that collaborative process is very easy as far as Marcus and myself go. And then as far as Tone Jones, he just makes an amazing product to work with.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And I'm glad to even like have this like privilege to talk with you and like Marcus,
Mhm.
before, so it kind of
Yeah,
has like an interesting like family like relation in that sense. And I didn't even like
yeah.
realize that. It just like kind of like hit me too. So I could definitely see like the inspiration in that sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Just getting back into these like other questions as well.
Right.
So the pandemic, I can't say like the certain name, because of YouTube and all that, but
Okay.
since the pandemic crisis, do you feel that like the pandemic has affected the way you tend to proceed with your business? And since then, what were some changes or tweaks that you had to like handle like in your business in a pandemic like this? Because it's
Yeah.
been crazy since like last year. So, and like a lot of like businesses have closed and everything like that too. So some people were deeply affected by it. So yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give you, I guess, two answers for that. Just kind of personally, work wise, for my actual job. I've been lucky enough to be deemed an essential worker for the industry that I work in. I work in engineering. And so my particular position just kind of remained open the entire time. It was a little weird to work through, just because everyone is going through a lot of different things. A lot of people are out of work and struggling to find work and stuff like that. So from just kind of like a straight employment standpoint, I've been lucky and blessed that not really much has changed for me. As far as music goes, um it definitely threw off some of the plans that I had had, because going into 2020 I had planned to spend a good amount of time in the studio. And I wanted to spend um a couple months being in and out of the studio, especially during the spring and summer. And that became no longer an option, as studio, you were unable to book studio time, because a lot of music creation spaces and performing spaces were deemed non-essential. So I was lucky enough that a number of years ago, I had invested in some recording equipment, as you can kind of see by the mic just kind of sitting here. So I've done a lot of recording just in my own home, and a lot of my mixing was done with a buddy of mine, the same person that did the um, production on all the Chrysalis tracks, Dallas. So I kind of had to pivot the way that I was gonna approach making my music for that year, and I would think that that would have a huge effect on a lot of other artists as well. So um, for me, it was it was it was a small obstacle for me, and it's because I'm not a full-time artist. It luckily didn't affect me too heavily, but I know that a lot of other artists were definitely a lot more seriously affected. Even Marcus being kind of more of an active artist, I know that he ended up losing out on a ton of work that he had kind of lined up, and you can see that a lot of other artists locally and internationally went through the same thing, because the way that a lot of artists make a good majority of their money is by performing, and if you're unable to do that, then that's going to mess up your bag, right? So for me it wasn't too tough, but I know that a lot of it was detrimental for a lot of other people.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And just to add on to like what I've noticed so far, like in my opinion as well too, it
Mhm.
had affected me also too because what I did before, so I was a concert photographer and like videographer. So I'm
Okay.
getting into like videography in that sense too, like at that time.
Yeah.
But I was doing like concert photography and like photojournalism in that sense. And
Mhm.
like one of the main branches I was working at was, concert photography, concert journalism in that sense too. So I was working
Right.
with publications, and then like when that hit, that kind of like depressed me for a bit too because I had to find
Mhm.
another like avenue. So this is how my platform continued because before when I did it in 2019, I wasn't doing as much too, and I wasn't doing much of the video stuff as
Right.
opposed to like the actual videography and then like the Zoom interviews. So it was more like meeting up, doing write ups, and doing photography. But I kind of stopped that because I was focused more on the concert photography, the journalism,
Mhm.
getting into that sort of bag. But then, like, when it all happened, I had to reinvest and remake this platform from top to bottom, like from bottom, like from top to bottom and from bottom to top,
Yeah.
like within that scratch too. So, this is how sort of like how TLOY was sort of made in that sense. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, I think you've kind of built a dope platform, and I hope it continues to grow. I think you're doing an amazing job with this and kind of putting a spotlight on artists, and especially at a time when they really need it, you know?
Yeah, no doubt, man. And I truly thank you for that too. And just getting on to this other question. I know that like even like with certain artists too, like with
Mhm.
rappers, musicians, artists, concert, production makers, even everyone else that worked within this industry too, like
Mhm.
everything has been messed up, but then they had to compromise and do other ways to interact with their audience, whether it would be like IG live videos or,
Mhm.
basic YouTube videos, or even doing like, random stuff too. Like even like some, some artists and some rappers are even resorting to more erotic type things like OnlyFans,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is sort of crazy too. But do you so since so the question it actually states so in terms of like other musicians like in the industry, do you
Mhm.
feel that the pandemic has affected the way these artists like handle their business as well, like either like internationally or locally? Like I know you already like added some points, but if
Yeah.
you want to add more, just give your shot.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it was a little bit more obvious at the beginning of the whole pandemic period, because once really close to the time that everything had shut down, um, clearly you know that a lot of artists will be planning a lot of their work very early in advance. So say like there's a lot of concerts that were planned in advance, a lot of those get canceled, and you no longer are creating your no longer creating your income. And if you don't have access to a studio, then that puts a stall on you building your product as well. And one big aspect of the industry is attention. So if you can't perform and you're not creating, then you don't have the attention you need to maintain that momentum. So during at the beginning of the pandemic, you saw that a lot of artists were they're like, all right, well, let me, if I can't tour, let me drop my album early. Let me put out a ton of singles to make sure that I still am maintaining some type of momentum. And they started like creating different online presences, even like say like Tory Lanez, for example, who was doing like a lot of like his live things, and kind of kept uh attention on himself in that type of aspect. But a lot of a large volume of music in general from large to smaller artists was coming out in like a very short period of time. So it was a really cool period to be consuming music. But I know that a lot of that had to come from a place of desperation as well, because like you don't know what to do, but you have to do something, right?
Yeah, no doubt, definitely. And like right now in the United States,
Mhm.
now they're bringing back these shows. Like I know
Right.
with the free main states right now, Texas, Florida, and California, like they're all for sure like just like having these shows back,
Mhm.
having like live audiences back, whether it's for sports, for
Mhm.
plays, for concerts. Like I think Florida right now, like it used to actually be like very empty within the concert scene aside from Rolling Loud, but like now they're
Right.
having like various like club performances with a lot of, I wouldn't say like A-list rappers, but like
Mhm.
rappers who are like sort of like big in that sense too, like right now. And even like with Texas and California and even
Mhm.
Florida, they're bringing back like a lot of like events, such as like Rolling Loud, which is going to be like in July. I think some festivals
Excuse me.
in sorry,
Yeah.
noise, some like events like in California too, like some music festivals, and then I think something
Yeah.
with Texas too as well. And like right now in Ontario and like even in Canada, you can't really do much besides like
Yeah.
go out for a walk or like exercise in a certain sense too. So do you
Mhm.
feel like once like the lockdowns and everything else gets back to normal, do you feel that live events and like live shows, sporting events in Canada per se would be like, or like even like everywhere in general would feel the same like as before? Or do you feel like there needs to be like some time for people like to integrate in that sense?
I would hope that everything would feel, back to, I guess, normal eventually. I know it's going to take a long time, so it's not like say Ontario opens back up in the summer or something like that. And the second that they start opening venues for sporting events and music performances, um it's I don't think it's gonna feel normal for a while. I think they're still gonna obviously get people that definitely want to go out and partake in those type of events. But as far as it feeling normal, I feel it's gonna be a couple years out. But I people at this point, people are tired of being locked down. They want to get back into some sense of normalcy. So hopefully they are able to uh get back to enjoying themselves in some type of way sooner than later.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt, no doubt. Hopefully it does get back to normal too. I mean, hopefully like the anti-lockdown protesters will settle down, because it's been crazy like every Saturday with them protesting
Yeah,
and
yeah.
not making everything better. And then also with these like random parties, like having more than like 100, like I think lately in the news too, they had like more
Mm,
than 150 people at this like random
mm.
party like in downtown, which
Oh
only
wow,
like
okay.
only like 24 people got like tickets. I
Yeah.
mean got tickets, but yeah, but it's crazy too. But hopefully in that sense too, once everyone's like vaccinated, everyone like just wears their masks, stays home, like in that sense too, and only go out for essential needs. Hopefully it
Mm.
does get better too. Um, so I actually have this like one question that I kind of like made up like in that
Yeah.
purpose of Toronto, and then like my other last question. So with Toronto and everything else too, it's also well known for the food. So I don't know if you're like a very big like food guy or like foodie in that sense.
A little bit. I do like to I do like to try new things. But yeah, I definitely enjoy going out to restaurants and stuff like that. Yeah.
True. So just like in the spite of promoting like smaller businesses in that sense too, or like even
Yeah.
like smaller restaurants in Toronto, and not like the whole like mainstream like big corporate like ones. Do
Mhm.
you have like some restaurants that you would like to shout out, or like say like that you would like to recommend for people to check out in Toronto in that sense too? Like if you have like one that you usually like go to, or like certain ones.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. One of my absolute favorite restaurants in the city is a place called Rum Corner. It's a small Caribbean spot down in the Annex area, down near Ossington and Dundas kind of areas down there. So it's a little Haitian spot. Amazing food. They offer a variety of rum and rum based cocktails. They bring in rum from like all over the world and from anywhere that will make rum. And it's kind of like a little hole in the wall spot. They got a few tables, they got a bar, amazing vibe. It's usually like kind of dimly lit, got nice music playing. It's an amazing place to go. I can't wait to go back. They've been like a lot of places, they've been open for kind of takeout. So I have gone there a couple times just to kind of give them a little bit of support during this time as well. Because as much as I'd much prefer to sit down in there, but if I can't do that, you might as well just pick up some of the food. It's good stuff. One of my favorite dishes there is their oxtail, and it's amazing.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll definitely like shout out mine too. So like I kind of have like
Mm.
sort of like a top five restaurants, like
Yeah.
Toronto per se, like in that sense too. So I'd start off with probably like one of my favorite ones called the Holy Chug. So they
Mm.
actually have like two locations in Toronto, one on like Young and St. Clair. I think that's like the only
Okay.
location they have. They used to have like another location at like Young and Wesley, but I think they shut down. It's
Okay.
kind of like one of my like favorite like burger joints like in Toronto
Yeah.
too. Like I found it out like while like I was like back like while I was in like school like years ago. So
Mm.
and if you can, they used to have like this thing called like the calorie, which is like a cheese. I think it's like a double cheeseburger with bacon and like
Mm.
caramelized onions and like two grilled cheese sandwiches. Like if like I
Wait,
like
the grilled cheese sandwiches are the ones?
yeah.
That's awesome.
So yo, I'd like recommend that too. I think
Yeah,
it's like one of the more authentic burger places too. I mean, you have like a lot of ones like Aussies and like Top Gun burgers, and
yeah,
then a lot of them, but I think they overdo it. I think Aussies would be the originator in that sense, but like a lot
yeah,
of the other ones sort of kind of get like overrated, like with the same like food, same like style. But it's Toronto. Some people prefer certain things too.
yeah.
As far as like the other four, so the one of them is like a black owned business, so I'm all for everyone black too. So if you're into like
Yeah,
Philly cheesesteaks and like everything that's like hoagies and
yeah,
sandwiches and like everything like that, there's this
yeah.
place called Ill Style Sammy's, which is by
Sorry,
like the
what was the place called?
Ill Style Sammy's.
Okay.
So it's actually by like John Street and Richmond, so like just like on the corner. So if you go to like Scotiabank Theater, like nearby, it's just like facing the other way too. So the owner, he's a guy from like Philadelphia, like very like well known, like not well known, but like very like well respected kind of guy, very cool, like very chill, and he knows how to make like a good cheesesteak too. So if you're looking for like the authentic like Philly cheesesteak,
Yeah.
I'd say go to him. There was like this other one that I actually used to go to back then called like I Went to Philly, which is by like which is by Eglinton West like subway station, where they
Okay.
also made like authentic cheesesteaks too, but it actually like shut down due to a fire. So it was
Oh
kind of
no.
tough because I actually found it out like months before the fire, and I only had like some of the food there, so
Right.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. Other ones that I'll shout out, Knockout Chicken. Like if you're into like very good chicken, like chicken sandwiches, or even like just like anything like fried chicken related, Knockout Chicken would be the one to by Kensington Market. You'd
Okay.
get like there's this like one dish that I actually like, which is like a like a fried mac and cheese with like actual like chicken strips on it.
Yeah.
Very amazing, very dope too. Other two, it's kind of weird because I'm trying to like find out like other two as well. I'd say there's this one place I'd go like as a kid. It's like sort of like my family liked at that time too. It's called like Scarborough. Like if you're into
Yes.
if you're into like very like well-known authentic Greek food, Scarborough like is the place. A
Yeah.
chicken souvlaki like on a pita, like with everything on it, it will help you throughout the night too, after a night going out, or even just like during the day too. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with Square Boys. I was introduced to them during high school. I ended up there quite a few times, just hanging out on the dance floor and stuff like that.
No doubt, no doubt. I think this other one too. I know that there's like a lot of good ones too, but like there's certain ones that I actually do like to end off on my fifth one. It's actually a very new place by like Liberty Village by King and like Atlantic Avenue.
Okay.
It's actually a place called Burger Drop. So if you're into like smashed burgers and everything like that, Burger Drop is like the one.
Yeah.
Very good burgers, like all American or like even like cheeseburgers too. Very well known. I think you can only either get pickup or takeout. So those are the only ones too. And you know, very like I wouldn't say it's like very like high or very low. It's like sort of
Mhm.
like in the middle too. So
Okay.
but it's worth it, like the burgers with everything on it, like you wouldn't like miss it. Like if you get like the American burger with like another side of like with one good side of fries with like I think it's like a certain sauce and then like with jalapenos and cheese, like
Yeah.
that's actually amazing too. So I think that's just kind of like my top five for now. So yeah.
Yeah, I hear that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think to add for as far as burger joints go, I think a lot of people who've been through Scarborough probably been introduced to Johnny's. So Johnny's Burgers up by Victoria Park and Shepherd. Dope burgers. I usually get a nice little burger there, and some onion rings. Good to go. It's an amazing spot. Love it.
No doubt, no doubt. I think just to end off right now, so what are your plans for this year in terms of like music or any other stuff going on in that sense? And like what advice would you give to someone who's either like a creative or non-creative who wants to like pursue their dreams and like something that they want to go for?
Yeah, so to answer the first question, as far as my own plans for the year music wise, yeah, so I'm usually like in and out of writing. I have a couple things that I'm in the process of preparing right now. Some of those once again with with Marcus. So we'll be working on those, working on some pieces in the upcoming months, and hopefully we'll start releasing maybe during summer or fall or something like that. Um, But yeah, so I have a few pieces coming with Marcus. I have a few solo pieces that I have started recording as well. I'm kind of in the mixing process of those. So hopefully those will start kind of being released in the upcoming months as well. Um, so yeah, just whenever those are ready, I'll get some of the art ready and start slowly releasing those, and hopefully, people vibe with those as well. To answer the second question, as far as anybody who may be interested in pursuing music or just following their dreams in general, man, just go for it, man. I personally spent a lot of time actually being uh I guess a little afraid to share what I've built with the world, because as kind of touched on earlier, I started writing during high school, and this is years later, and I just started releasing music on streaming platforms about a year and a half ago, right? But I've been writing for over a decade and creating music for all that time. Um, so really at the end of the day, just if you want it, go for it. It's extremely easy to release music now and to create it. Um and at the end of the day, even if if you're concerned that maybe you are, not good enough, you'll definitely grow. Just keep working at it. The more you work at it, the more you will expand and grow. And you never know who's gonna vibe with your stuff, because for as of right now, I kind of consider myself, just kind of this unknown person from Toronto. But the second you start releasing music, and especially with the internet, you never know who's gonna find it and who's gonna vibe with it. Because there's people that have reached out to me that don't even live in the country, that have been like, "Yo, I've been listening to your music. It's dope. I've been feeling it and kind of spinning it for the last couple weeks," and they vibe with it. So the more energy you dedicate into uh creating and sharing your product, you're gonna find people that will vibe with it. So I would just go for it. Try to dedicate some time and money to it, and really, most importantly, have fun with it, man. If you're not having fun with it, then in my opinion, if you're not going to have fun with it, it's almost not worth it. And that's really just build from a place of fun, express yourself, and just enjoy the process.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.